morning. Welcome to episode 14 of Digital Village. I'm excited, and as I always say, I am excited, but I'm excited because I have invited a friend that I've met through Facebook, Catharine Ross, to explain about what she does, and more importantly, the work that she does with her, hey Frank, does with the children that she does and with adults too. And what I'm really excited about this is because what I shared in the post that I wrote earlier explaining who she is that I utilized her emotional freedom technique to change a situation between Zion and I. So yesterday, as always, as a mum, I had so many things on my plate and I was trying to juggle everything. And because of that, I became stressed. And I was researching Catharine and how I do that. Here she is now. And what happens is with this is, I think it's going to come. It's coming. It's slowly coming, Catherine. That's why it's coming. We're waiting for its connection. Here you are. Hello. I was like doubling. Sometimes you probably wish there was multiples of you, if that makes sense. Right now, there was one coming here, there, and I was like,
oh, was there?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Well, technology and I don't mix very well, so.
I'd love to share with the audience how we just spoke and how you said that you've used tape to put it up against your laptop to keep it there. No, don't be embarrassed. As a mum, you think about it, as mums, we become really resourceful, and because our time is occupied by our children, we have to think in the moment. And I think that's an amazing way, an amazing thing to do. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I usually use my laptop, so if I have to do a Facebook Live, I've got to stick my phone somewhere, and my daughter took my blue tack, so I don't know where it's gone, and she couldn't find it. And I'm like, Lily, where's my blue tack? Hurry up, I need it. And she says, it's not here anymore, it's gone. So I was like, oh God, I've got some packing tape somewhere. So thankfully it's all good, it's holding up, and all the things that go on behind the scenes, hey?
It is, and I always talk about like how my life as a parent is like held together with like sticky tape and safety pins. Like you're just constantly adjusting and doing things.
Good
and you
metaphor,
have to think,
isn't it?
Yeah, because that's what it is. Because you don't, when you come in as a parent, you don't really understand what you're doing. You're learning on the job, and you're just resourceful, and that's what makes you successful at it. Is that you just think, okay, it didn't work, I'll evaluate and change. But what I was just sharing, Catherine, is about how yesterday I utilized one of your videos to change a situation between Zion and I. I was overwhelmed and stressed. And what I find really amazing about what you do is that you directly work with children and parents, don't you? And that's what I found in the video, is that I started using the emotional freedom technique, and from being stressed in a situation, it automatically, like, how can I say, I can't get the right word, it dissipated. Like everything was going on. But what I found was amazing is it dissipated Zion's behavior too. I didn't realize I was elevating this stressful point. And when I started going through the motions of the EFT, I started to calm down, and my son calmed down too. And could you explain why that happens? Like how that has such, like it was powerful. And I didn't realize, and people keep saying to me, how I am in the world is how my son responds as well.
Absolutely. Well, children are taking their cues from us as to how to respond to stimuli and how to handle or not handle stress as well. So, we're so energetically entwined with our kids, particularly when they're at a young age, and they're very open energetically too. So if they see mum, behaving in a certain way, they are taking cues from that and thinking, okay, this is what is normal, or this is, how I'm supposed to react, or they're trying to mirror you because, that's what kids do. We're their blueprint for their life as well. So the energy is so entwined with us that if you've got a baby, for instance, and I've got an 11-month-old, if she is really upset and I'm getting really upset at her, then that's actually going to escalate her behavior because she is more stressed and triggered by what I'm being stressed and triggered about as well. So it's just a bit of a cycle like that. And the great thing with EFT is because it's energy work, you're actually affecting your energy, which is affecting their energy too. So for for instance, if you sit down next to somebody who is massively depressed and really, really down, how do you feel sitting next to them? Do you feel uplifted and happy, or?
And that's, my husband's grieving at the moment, and I keep thinking, because his mum passed away 4 months ago, and I keep thinking, why, like, and he's always been my rock, and it's really interesting you say that, because automatically I'm feeling like energetically taking on what
Yeah.
he's feeling without even consciously being aware of it.
Absolutely, because we're always reading each other's energies, you know, so it's a subconscious thing, and that's why we will be affected by people around us. And it's the same for the opposite as well. If you're around somebody who's really bubbly, really positive, uplifting, you automatically feel better, or you feel elevated energetically, because you're picking up on that person's energy. And we have fields, you know, energetic fields that extend. I know our heart field extends something like 5 meters out in all directions around us. So we're always reading those signals that we're putting out there, and our kids are so open to that too. So that's what's happening in terms of their emotional response to our emotional response as well.
To me, to think that 5 meters, like that's probably the span of my house, and sometimes something will go on with me and I haven't verbalized it out. Wow, but my son is by my side, like within minutes, or not in minutes, seconds of it happening without me even verbalizing it. And that's that energetic field. Can I ask, is it a survival response? Is that the reason why we have it, or is it just the interconnection of being human?
Well, I think it's probably just an interconnection of being human as well. I mean, there's lots of science behind it. There's the Heart Math Institute is a really good one to look up, because that actually measures, you know, the heart and its field around us as well. So maybe have a look at that, because that can give you some really great information around our heart field, you know, intention, things like that, prayer, all of that is, you know, our heart field, and our heart extends that much into everybody else's field. So therefore, you're always mixing. Yeah, so I think, you know, look, it can be possibly a survival thing or an adaptation, evolutionary thing, because, you know, you're always reading those energetic signals, and that enables you to respond to your environment, I suppose. So, you know, it's interesting with birds, for instance, you know, if you see a flock of birds, and they all, you know, do that in the sky, that's because they're actually picking up on the field around them, and that's actually guiding them as to where to turn, because they're not just looking at each other going, which way are you going? Okay, I'm going to go this way too. You know, it's something that is intrinsic, and yeah, and I think that that's definitely an energetic thing that they're picking up on, and knowing how to actually yeah, turn in that moment. So I think everything is energy in this world, and the more that we are, you know, understanding of that, the more that we can use that energy for good for ourselves, and that does have that impact to those around us. And because of the work I do, like it's interesting when we work with a client who might be having issues with their parent. You know, when you actually work on yourself, that affects the energy between you and that parent, no matter how old you are. So the amount of, you know, people who've sent me an email afterwards and said, oh my God, you know, like my mum hasn't spoken to me for say 2 years, and I just got an email out of the blue from her. Or normally our interactions are really intense and, you know, full of blame or guilt or shame or something like that, and then, you know, all of a sudden they aren't like that anymore. So, you know, when we change our energy, that affects the energy of those around us as well.
I'm left speechless, because I've never really realized the impact that I have, like, on other people's lives as well, and more importantly, the impact on our children. And I know that's something I wanted to talk about, is that if we work on ourselves, and that's what you've touched on briefly, is that when we work on ourselves, it makes a huge difference to our children as well. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Because, you know, we're responsible for showing them the way, and, you know, how to self-regulate, how to, you know, believe in themselves, how to deal with circumstances, whether they be negative or positive. And it's quite a responsible role. It's full of responsibility. But the good thing is that, you know, children are resilient at the end of the day. And I think that there's a lot of worry, especially when, you know, you're talking about conscious parenting, or in the work that I do, for instance, because when I had my daughter, I think I had a bit of a freak out, my first daughter, because I was thinking, oh my God, I know too much. You know, I know too much about how things are interpreted, or beliefs that might come from just a flippant conversation that you have. And so I think I was really scared that every single word that I was saying was going to be, affecting her or going to be traumatizing her. So I thought, great, my daughter's 2 weeks old at the time. I've already stuffed up her life because I've already cried in front of her or something. And I'm thinking, Christ alive, I've stuffed up my kids. But the reality is that we're responsible for what we say, how we say it, but we're not responsible for what they mean. So, we can have the best intentions and always try to do the right thing, but at the end of the day, they're going to take what they're going to take from it. So I think, it helps to just understand that, what we put out there, we need to make sure is resourceful and helpful to them and positive. But, at the end of the day, they can make things mean something negative, and it's not our responsibility, that part of it. So we've just got to nurture them the best way that we know how, and give them the tools that they need in order to take the best from scenarios as well. So I think, sometimes we can get a little bit concerned or caught up in, oh my God, what's going to be the outcome of this particular conversation I've just had, or they've just seen me cry. Is that meaning they're going to be traumatized for life? And that's not the case. So.
Because yesterday I had an epiphany of my own, because I had the same problem, because I realized about the limiting beliefs that can be brought onto us between the ages 0 to 8, and that it can be a reflection of our parents or the people around us. And then I thought to myself yesterday, I was saying something to him, but then I thought, well, also too, it would be my son's interpretation. He's just mastering language now because he's 22 months old, but it's the energy behind the language, I suspect as well.
Absolutely.
That it's so, it doesn't, because I'm a big listener of Abraham Hicks, and she talks about that briefly about it, and how what we put out, it's not necessarily the words, but it's the energy that we put behind it. And that's what they're interpreting. And that, like I hear from the heart field as well. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, our words, our languaging is so important as well. But as you said, how we say it and what we say is important, not how it's received from their perspective, because everyone's always going to have a different perspective of things. So, you line up 10 people, for instance, and you give them the same trauma, and they will all have a different response to it. So it's the same when we're thinking about things that, our kids are going through. It's just arming them with the right tools to be able to let go of those things. And, if you have had an issue, or you have had, like I say, an argument with them, and you're feeling really bad about it, it's not about sitting there going, oh my God, I didn't do the best thing possible in that moment. I put across the wrong energy. I did this wrong. I did that wrong. What are they going to make it mean? It's about then actually, how do you resolve that and work with them to get them to have that conscious awareness and understanding of why you've reacted that way, what happened, what they could do differently next time, what you could do differently next time as well. And I think that, getting on their level is really, really important as well, because that makes them feel understood and respected. And when you have that can dissolve a lot of that negativity that we think that they might be taking from those scenarios.
And I know when we finish this, I'm going to put a link to your conscious parenting group. I love your group that you have there, because you're always giving resources to us as parents of how we can navigate the conscious parenting space. And I also like the fact that you, and this is one of the videos I found, is that you, with older kids particular, is that after the age of 3, they can use emotional freedom technique, and you go through the end of their day so that they can process the good and the bad, because things are energetically stored in our body. Is that right? And so and so it doesn't get built up in trauma. And this is my interpretation, and I want you to clarify it too, is that children are more open because they don't have layers of trauma on them, and that it's easier to help them go through a situation, a stressful situation, by utilizing EFT than it is with an adult because of that. Is that right?
Yes. I mean, generally speaking, children don't have the layers of trauma that we do. There are some children, unfortunately, who do have a lot of trauma there. So that can be, obviously addressed through tapping. But they don't also have that cynicism that adults do. They don't go through life getting a bit jaded about this therapy and that therapy and this approach and that approach. They don't have that inner dialogue as much as we do. The criticisms, that negative Nancy voice that's there saying, oh, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? And the thing is that EFT works whether you believe in it or not. And that, and the thing is that it works with babies too. So and so it's not a placebo. It's actually working on the chemistry of the brain and how it actually helps to interpret and process and let go of stress. So yeah, it's absolutely helpful for all kids from babies up through to teenagers. And I've worked with the most stubborn, resistant teenage boys, which is probably the height of resistance there, is working with teenage boys. But they can actually get benefit as well because they see how quickly they can let go of things. So for instance, with my 4-year-old daughter, she had an incident at kindy, and she came back, and she's normally very mild mannered and well behaved and everything, and when she's tired, yes, she can be a bit of a terror, but she was really acting out one day, and I think I posted about this it was probably a couple of months ago, and I said how strange her behavior seemed, and she was really acting out, and I thought, well, this is a bit odd. I don't understand why she's behaving this way. So I sat her down and I said, let's do some tapping. Let's just tap through, this feeling, because you're feeling a bit yucky at the moment. And she loves tapping because I've done it with her ever since she was about 1. And so she is well versed in the points and can actually use them on herself, which is great. But in this instance, I just tapped through her points on her face and upper body, and just got her to talk to me about that feeling that she had. And then all of a sudden, after about a minute of tapping, she blurted out that she had somebody throw a book in her face, I think, or something like that at kindy. And she was feeling really, really upset about it. So we were able just to tap through that upset feeling. And then literally within probably 30 seconds, she was over it. She was off doing something else. So, that's how quickly these types of things can actually be let go of from our kids, because they don't have to sit there and go through this limiting belief, that limiting belief, how are we feeling right now. You can just, see how quickly their energy shifts, particularly in the young ones too, which is beautiful.
Amazing, because you don't want something like that to come back. There's little things that we can't even identify. And I suspect you've worked with adults that way, that something that we think is minuscule, like that, a book being thrown into her face, is absolutely destroyed your daughter's entire day. And could have done it for weeks and sat there and then sat in bodies and layers. And that's what I suspect you find with adults, is that, that there's layers upon layers that have been there. Is that right? And that
and then they just get built upon, and if we don't actually let go of the trauma, and when I say trauma, people think big trauma stuff like death of a loved one, or big stuff happening, but trauma is subjective, and there is big T trauma and little T trauma as well. And so big T trauma is obviously the big stuff like abuse, massive bullying issues, things like that do happen, but we also have little T traumas, which are the more what we would classify as minor, but I find that they actually have the more global beliefs that come from it. So it's never about what's happened to us, it's about what we make it mean. And so it's those, I've been to 11 schools. I had bullying, and a lot of them I had massive confidence issues, and they were all from small T traumas. Those beliefs that I got where I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, all of these things didn't come from massive one-off events. They came from a succession of minor things that actually built up over time because I didn't process them, and I was just layering. So it became a very ingrained belief.
Right now, because I just wanted to check the time, so I'm not holding, so I know there's time frame. Is that one of your missions is to introduce this to schools, and I know I've got a teacher watching right now. So how and what can a teacher do if they're in a situation with the student, because there's constant conflicts? Kids are always finding that. How can they implement this successfully, even teach it to a classroom? Or how would you go about teaching it to a classroom of students?
Well, I in the US actually, they've introduced EFT across hundreds of schools with amazing success. So there's some really cool stuff about the tapping solution, Nick Ortner, and how he went through lots of different schools and has introduced this technique to staff and students as well. And so that's my mission to do it over here. And I think we're sometimes so I'm going to sneeze. Pardon me. I was trying
Bless
to hold
you.
it off. It was not
Bless
working.
you.
Thank you. So yeah, I think in Australia is always a little bit behind with that kind of thing. But we've got the mindfulness stuff, we've got the meditation, we've got yoga and everything like that, which is fantastic. This is another level of it. So it's a tool, it's a self-help tool, and so I go programs with both staff and students as well. And the first thing I like to do is work with staff, because if they feel comfortable mastering the technique themselves and using it on themselves, they're going to feel more comfortable in a classroom setting. So for instance, in the US or overseas, they sometimes start with, homeroom. They might do 5 minutes of tapping to start their day. It doesn't, in a group setting, you don't have to focus so much on an issue or a trauma or a negative emotion. You can just tap for having a good day, and so that sets the intention to actually... Yeah.
Can I ask you, can we do it now? You show us, demonstrate, because people don't understand. It's so simple. I didn't realize until yesterday, like I've done it, but how simple it is, and it only takes minutes to do. So could we do it together for us to have a good day? I'd love it. I'm going to be selfish and monopolize on this.
So yeah, that's fine. So first of all, though, is there anything that you think that might be in the way of you having a not so good day?
Me, it's like the stress of piling everything up. Like it's a typical mum, you think you find this and then you're meant to do this, and then something else comes up, and then you've got to prioritize that, and then you get these limiting thoughts that you're not able to get everything done.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not being able to get everything done. Yeah. Okay. And how would you like to feel about your day? What would be a good day for you? What does that mean?
Just be in sync, like with everything. So if something happens with my son, like this morning I was chopping him off to occasional care. If he has an attack and doesn't want to go, I just go with it with him rather than trying to force him to be a certain way. Because I know if I actually went with the flow, it'd actually be quicker for me to get where I want to go rather than trying to force it where I think it should be.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So normally in tapping, what we will do is we'll focus on the negative, because you can't normally just tap in for positives without reducing the negative first. Yeah. So when we're in a group setting like that, it's a bit different because everyone can set their intention for what it is that they need to release. And you can do the same right now. All right. So I want you to think about anything that might be in the way of you not having a good day, those things that can come up that might throw stuff out of kilter. So just hold the energy of that. And what I like to do in terms of this type of tapping is add choice. All right, so instead of trying to force your brain to accept that you're going to have a good day, you're giving it the option, and the brain loves choice, right? So for instance, if I give my daughter an option of what vegetables that she's going to have for dinner, because that's my game at the moment, she, if I just sit down there and put a plate of veggies in front of her that she hasn't chosen herself, that she might not like, she will have resistance towards eating it. Whereas if I say to her, okay, you can choose 3 veggies, what 3 veggies would you like to have with your dinner? She will be way more likely to actually eat those veggies because she has made the decision to do so. So it's the same when it comes to positive thinking as well. And I put a post up about that the other day, I think, about, positive thinking really works. But if you're actually focusing on what it is you need to let go of, that will help the process to take effect. And also, choosing to have a good day, choosing to easily let go of things that might come up. So when we say I choose, that's a really good thing to add into your tapping as well, because it's actually giving your brain the choice, which is it's like the path of least resistance. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go through the points with you. So the first point that we use is the side of the hand. So you don't have to have a specific side. It's just whichever side feels comfortable to you, and you tap with the opposite hand. And then we move up to the top of the head. So I'll just take you through the points. That's where that flat part is up there. Excellent. It looks a bit funny, doesn't it? And then down to the eyebrows. So that's where your eyebrow starts, not in the middle of the head. And then out to the side of the eye. Beautiful. Just where the eye ends. Yeah. Underneath the eye. On the bone there. Under the nose. On the chin. And then if you find your collarbone, those 2 bones there, and you move about an inch down and then an inch outwards, it's kind of where gorillas beat their chest. It should be a little bit sore if you press in. Yeah, don't have to. It's not the harder you tap, the more benefit you get, by the way.
I heard you say that yesterday. I don't almost went, okay, self-love, let's be gentle.
That's right. That's right. And then under your arm where your bra strap sits, and if you're a male, it's about 3 inches down from your armpit. Beautiful. Okay, good. So they're the basic points that we use. All right. So let's do a couple of rounds on having a good day. Okay, so the first thing that we say is an acceptance statement. So it's stating, the problem in general, and then accepting ourselves with it anyway. And that cuts out that resistance. So it's like, it stops any reason to hold on to the problem and helps us to actually better ingrain those things that we are saying when we're tapping. All right, so just thinking about having a good day and thinking about anything that might be in the way of it, and just repeating after me, even though. Some things might pop up today. That might throw me off track. I choose to have a good day anyway. Even though. I don't know what's going to happen today. And things might come up. I might be faced with stress. I choose to let it go easily. And have a wonderful day. Top of the head. I choose to have a good day. I can easily handle what gets thrown my way. I can be calm in the middle of the storm. I choose to easily handle whatever comes up for me. I believe in my own ability to do so. And I choose to handle the ups and downs. I'm going to have a really good day. I'm going to feel so good by the end of this day. And I know that I can't control what goes on around me. But I choose to control my reactions to it. I can be calm and centered. I'm choosing to be focused. I choose to prioritize effectively. I'm going to have a really good day. It's safe for me to have a really good day now. I am deeply safe. Beautiful. Okay, then deep breath in and out. Excellent. Okay.
It's like both sides of my brain came together. I don't know if this is the effect, and it's like my left and right hemisphere are talking to each other and calm. There's no fight and flight there, and it's like I have a trust that it's going to be, like there's this trust. It's going to be a good day.
Good, because the thing is that we tend to place so much value in what's going on around us, and that dictates, it's our barometer of whether or not we're going to have a good day, for instance. But it's actually our reactions to things that will dictate whether or not that is the case. So if we are in control of our emotions and we are able to, effectively let go of whatever comes up for us, that's going to go such a long way to creating the reality that we want. And so this type of tapping, and normally when we tap with people, we're working on one specific issue or one specific feeling at a time. The more specific you are in your tapping, the more results that you will get. But that said, there's lots of different applications, and this is one of them. So, even if you begin your day with, just a couple of minutes, a few rounds of this, that actually goes a long way to helping process things as well, because it's not about specifically sitting down there and focusing on one issue unless you have something that you really need to work on. If you just want to increase your ability to have a good day, that's something that you can do. And it sounds a little bit wishy-washy, I just want to have a good day, but when you recognize what that means to you, that's how you then add those things into your tapping. So it might be being calm, even though you're faced with stressful situations. It might be feeling more proactive and positive. It might be, feeling better within yourself, making the right choices food-wise, all these different things that constitute what you would classify as having a good day is in your brain already. So your brain is already putting together that information as to what that means for you.
Obviously, you said about focusing on one thing. It was about limiting beliefs. My head comes up all the time saying, oh, you can't do this because I'm doing something completely different with my career. But then what happened? So I focused on that energy, and now I realize what's going on with my brain. I can hear it circulating in the back. Okay, you don't have it, but you're actually just learning the skills, and you're going to get there. You shouldn't expect it overnight in the background. And what I think is powerful about that is imagine that your kids are doing this before they start school every day. And whatever they're focusing on, if it's an exam or it's something, that we're throwing them in different things, because school is hard. People don't realize. I watched the movie The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and it reminded me of how difficult it is to be a teenager, particularly because you've got your body going through all these crazy different responses. We're expecting them to choose what they're going to do with their future. They've got to navigate relationships. And if you give them as a skill set to do this, like a way that they can navigate things, I wish I let this as a teenager. I'd be in the toilets at school.
Yeah, me too, right?
If somebody said something to you that was quite nasty, because you think about it, like he's just said, it was really powerful. We as humans fill in the gaps. We don't there was you're talking about bullying. There was an individual that bullied me at school. She was nasty woman. Nasty. But now I know it's because her dad was nasty at home.
Yeah.
And she'd learnt this behavior, one, but two, she was trying to regain power back in her life. And I can look back as an adult and understand that, but when I'm a kid, I'm interpreting that I'm the problem. And you would have done that with everything that happened to you. You said 11 schools.
Absolutely.
You constantly would have been experiencing bullying.
Yeah, that's right. And if I'd had a tool back then to, help self-regulate and to, let go of those emotions and let go of those experiences. So for instance, if your child's being bullied, you would say to them, okay, well, how does it make you feel? What's going on for you right now? Thinking about this behavior that's happened to you. And they might say, it makes me feel worthless. And that's when you would focus on that worthlessness that they feel. And you could tap with them, even though I feel worthless about this situation because such and such said blah, blah, blah. I love and accept myself. So I think that's a really good thing to help instill into kids, is the ability to love and accept themselves no matter what's going on around them. So, and that's a really good balancing statement to use for them, or I'm still a good kid, or I'm okay, or I'm safe. So whatever resonates to them and their age as well. And you tap through that worthlessness. So all this worthless feeling, I felt so worthless when such and such said blah, blah, blah. All this worthlessness, I feel so worthless. So you're focusing on that specific emotion that they're feeling, whether it's that, whether it might be test anxiety. You will just replace the words with whatever the issue is. So as long as you tap and you talk about the issue, you're going to get benefit from it. So there are no hard and fast rules with EFT. So I just wanted to throw that one in there in case anyone was confused about, the types of tapping that they've seen online or something like that. And I think, hang on, that's not the right way. There are lots of different ways, lots of applications. And in my ebook as well, I go through lots of the applications for, babies through to teenagers too. So there's different ways that you can utilize it. And so
that we put that link down the bottom of this as well, that we put the link for the ebook, because I know for myself I'm going to outsource it because I realized the difference it made on me and with my son. And I know that was something I wanted to talk about, is make sure I've got time right.
That's okay. All good.
I'm going to say is, you talked about words, the language of words that we use, the difference in verses. We can have an open conversation with a teenager, like you just shared there, and it's about anxiety. But I love the way, and I'd love for you to explain it to people here, is that you change the language of what you use versus a 5-year-old, because a 5-year-old wouldn't know what anxious means.
Yes, yeah. So a lot of the time, because I work with so many kids as well, and my specialty is working in anxiety. So a lot of the time, they won't know what anxiety means, particularly if they are younger, as you said. So they might describe it in a different way. They might say, and it's really common that they have tummy troubles. So if they say, oh, my tummy hurts, that can actually be anxiety because it's our enteric nervous system. There's the same tissue in the gut as there is in the brain. So that's why we get that gut feeling or that gut reaction. It's because that's actually all of our emotions are hitting our gut first and then going up to our brain, which sends the message to, the rest of our body to go into fight or flight or to react a certain way, to start, putting out hormones, etc. So, a lot of the time that's where they will actually feel anxiety. So if your child, is coming to you with a lot of stomach complaints, things like that, then that can be what might be going on for them there. They might say, I feel scared, or also shows up in behaviors too. So a lot of defiance, aggressive behavior, needing to control situations or maybe over plan for things, that can also be anxiety. So it's not always just what they're saying, it's also about picking up on how they are interpreting things and what they're doing in their actions and behaviors as well.
Because I was going to ask about behaviors, but it makes me realize I wasn't in the ideal home environment growing up, and I was so
Yeah.
rebellious at school, like
Mm.
really. And teachers would understand, couldn't understand. But it's funny because a psychologist explained to me once is that if your child rebels at home, you should be happy because they feel safe and secure in their environment. And if
Yeah.
they don't do it at home, but they're doing it at school, well, obviously now it's just hit me is that they're safe. I
Yeah.
felt safe at school to do that, to rebel. So
Yes.
that's what you're saying as well. So if the child, it could be young as primary school or is in secondary school, they could be rebelling at school as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because it's not just about having anxiety, for instance. It's about what they're making it mean. So, they might be feeling a lack of control over their home life, for instance, and that's how they are, representing that anxiety and how they're playing that out because they're trying to get control over what it is that they can't control. So that's where, the bully that you were talking about, she had a bad home life. And so, that was possibly how she was acting out her issues and anxieties around things. So anxiety doesn't always show up as, like shaking and having a panic attack. There's lots of different ways. But a really interesting thing that you might not know is that, when the animal kingdom, right, they can discharge stress really quickly, right? So if you see like one of those little deer running like hell away from a tiger, for instance, or a lion, so it's obviously in stress, all right, really, really stressed out because it's fearing for its life. So it's in massive fight or flight. And if they do get away, what they will do is when they recognize that they are safe, they will actually shake. And what that does is it discharges the freeze response and the fight or flight response from their body so that they're able to get on with their lives. Because if they were not to do that, can you imagine all these little anxious deer running around, like just constantly freaked out, So it's an evolutionary thing that they have actually developed to shake out their stress and to let it go. So we don't have that as humans, and that's why it's so important to show our kids how to discharge that stress response through somatic stimulation, because it's not just a conscious thing, it's helping the body as well. And that's what EFT is. It's a mind body therapy. So you're actually teaching them how to deal with the stress, not only consciously but at a physiological level too.
My understanding, because I did a course on that and it blew my mind away, is that crying is also a way that we release stress as well. It's
Yeah.
a form,
Yeah.
so it's really healthy. And I really probably want to say this message because I've got a boy, that it's healthy for a young
Yeah.
boy or a teenage boy to cry, that we shouldn't actually shut
Hmm.
down their emotions because what I know
Yeah.
myself, once I cry, I change. My whole
Uh-huh.
perspective changed.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because it's a release, and so they've actually done amazing. Like with microscopes, they've checked different tears have different shaped molecules. So it's not just if you're crying, you're sad. They've shown that the crystals in the tears actually are shaped differently depending on what emotion was driving it. So they've shown tears of joy versus tears of laughter, tears of happiness, tears of sadness, grief, all of those things actually have different manifestations of their molecules as well, which is really interesting in their structure.
that's I didn't think that could happen with human beings. Does that make sense? I know about the studies where the man tested, different types of music and saying, oh, even love affirmations to water and freezing it,
Yeah.
and then saying hateful affirmations.
Yes.
But our own body has the
Yeah.
ability to, that's beautiful,
Well, that's the
to
thing,
be
because we are
honest.
so much water, right? And that's, tears
Mm.
are made up of water as well. So it makes sense that, like the Dr. Emoto water experiment, it's a similar thing. So yeah, I mean, I have a lot of clients releasing energy in different ways in our sessions. So whether that is crying, whether that is, burping or coughing, sneezing, whatever, there's lots of different ways that our body actually lets go.
Our body energetically knows what's right for them and dissipates it out. Now, we've got 5 more minutes, but I want to check in. What if, for me, I was going to say, I'm going to be selfish, and this is for other people too, because I know I see you as an expert in conscious parenting because of one of your group, but your insight into parenting. What are 3 things people could do today that could change their whole relationship between their child and them consciously? I hope that
Yeah.
makes it, yeah, to come
Yeah,
across.
yeah, 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 absolutely. So the first and foremost thing is to work on themselves, because you can't be, you can't model conscious parenting, or you can't model certain behaviors unless you have worked through them yourself as well. So conscious parenting is also about going and healing the wounds within ourselves so that we're not passing them down to our children. And so I work a lot with, with mothers too, who might have had issues in their past with their upbringing, with their own mums, and they have unwittingly taken beliefs about themselves or the world, and are, projecting unconsciously onto their children as well. So that's the first thing that you can do is to take a step back and don't worry about being the perfect parent. Just go within and noticing, okay, what are my challenges? What am I really having trouble dealing with? What are my triggers? And working through them is really, really going to help to shift the energy with your child too. So for instance, I'll get a lot of people say to me, oh, can you please see my 5-year-old because he's got anxiety? And I will say, yeah, sure. All right, but let's work with you first. So because a lot of their behavior can be changed by just working through your issues, and I'm saying yours not as in you specifically, but as in the parent as well. So I think that's probably the single most important thing that you can do to affect change and to help your conscious parenting journey, is to go within and to heal your own wounds so you're not passing them down. And science has now proven that trauma is passed down genetically through our DNA in generations. So an EFT has been shown to clinically alter 72 of our genes in the way that they're expressed. So it's really, really important to do this work, because it's not only helping you to feel better, emotionally, but it's literally changing the expression of your DNA. So that's so powerful for not only you, but also your children. And I think also just, when you're faced with triggers, taking a breath. So noticing, how quick we are to react to situations is really interesting, because normally the behavior will come and the reaction will be straight afterwards. So if we just give ourselves that space to be mindful and breathe before we react, is it really worth it? Is it really necessary to yell at them or to tick them off for this behavior? So giving yourself that mindful pause in between the action that they've taken and the action that you're going to take is really important as well. And I think lastly, languaging is something that we spoke about and touched on in the beginning, but also bearing in mind that everyday little things that we might say are being picked up on by them, and it's not only going to help them, us changing that behavior and that language, but it's also going to help us. So for instance, one of my favorite things to tell people off for is saying, I can't afford. So for instance, if you're out shopping and they say, oh, mummy, can I have this toy or whatever? And you say, I can't afford that, or we can't afford that, or it's too much money. What is that instilling in them? And being aware, of what that is meaning for them as well. So, and the more that you inculcate that, that's what your reality is going to be as well. So just having that awareness, I think, and that's what conscious parenting is about. It's not being the perfect parent. It's not doing the right thing 100% of the time, but it's about, recognizing patterns and behaviors and triggers that you need to shift and heal from, so that you can be a better parent and your child will be the benefit as well.
You think of progress, not perfection. That's what you're aiming for, progress. And I love the fact that that
Absolutely.
breath, you
Yeah.
just reminded me of very important things, that breath. You got to remember that breath, really. And I love that you just said about the language we have around money, because my mum didn't have a lot of money, and one of her favorite things we used to say is money doesn't grow on trees. And I
Yeah.
catch that limiting
Yeah.
belief coming, and that's a generational thing, because I've heard my
It is. Yeah.
grandparents say it. And it's
Yeah.
really powerful about is if you want your children to navigate money in a really healthy, I see that, and it's not about it just about abundance and it's easy to come to, because there is an energetic flow. We're talking about it. It's about
Yeah.
what you share with your children. That's really powerful. So
Yes.
before you run
Yeah.
away, if people want to reach out to you, how do they go about doing it?
Sure. So my website is breakfreewitheft.com, and that's probably the easiest way to reach me. There's a contact form there if you need to. Otherwise, I'm on Facebook. Always feel free to send me a message or comment below with any questions, because I love answering questions about tapping. So, I can talk about all the neuroscience behind it until the cows come home. So if you're a more left-brain person, you want to know about the science and stuff, feel free to ask. And yeah, I have my Facebook page as well, which is Break Free with EFT. I've also got a YouTube channel under the same name, which with a few videos on there, so like tap along videos and things, specifically around children, most of it. And there are some resources on my website, as I mentioned as well, with the ebooks, one for parents using it with kids, and also a tapping journal for teens too. And that's me in a nutshell, I think. So yeah, I'm happy to be contacted for any questions or anything like that too. So
Put all those links down. Put them all down the bottom. I'd love for you to put it there, because
yeah.
I'm going to go stalk you some more. And I suspect there are other people are. They really, I want to say thank you. I really appreciate this. You've
Thank
given
you.
me a wonderful day. Now, I can't say that one,
Aw.
but
You've given you a wonderful day, yeah.
wonderful day. I like that too. And to just the ability to breathe, like just those three things you gave me is really what I need to navigate my
Yeah.
relationship healthy. And you've reminded me it's about parenting is about progress, not perfection. And I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
do appreciate that. Right. Well, thank you for
Absolutely.
everybody
Well,
for watching.
thank you.
And you
Thanks.
have a wonderful day, and everybody else too, because I know I will
Yeah, got
now.
no excuse now.
I love it. All right.
Oh,
Thank you,
wonderful.
Catherine.
Thank
We'll
you
talk
so much,
soon.
Amberlee.
You're
All
very
right. See
welcome.
you later.
I see you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.